Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Theory into Practice. Today, I am visited in my virtual studio by one of the best individuals in emergency management. I love her. Any chance I can to get to talk to her. When we see each other in person, it's even more amazing because I am in love with this woman. Carol Cwiak is. Dr. Carol Cwiak is a professor of emergency management at North Dakota State University. She's also featured with the curriculum of the Emergency Management Professionals Program Executive Academy. She plays a huge role in higher education for emergency managers and those who are seeking to be in emergency management. And today, I just want to welcome Carol to the show, and we have a lot to talk about today. We are going to be talking about their program, the executive program, stepping into leadership as a whole in emergency management, and what we can do as emergency managers to better apply emergency management leadership and influence to growing the profession and the professional. So welcome, Carol.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for your kind words. It's always good to spend time with you.
Absolutely. I love seeing you too and being able to have conversations. We were just having a very great conversation. I was like, we have to hit record because this conversation it's needed for people to hear. And so I'll transition to that in just a second, but also in our leadership discussion, because we're going to have just a pure leadership discussion after we take a small break. But when it comes to the programs that we have in place right now for emergency managers and for those in higher education, specifically who want to get degrees in higher education at higher levels, and the emergency management professionals or emergency management practitioners, whatever you want to call yourself at this time, that's still up for debate, apparently. So how we do that, how we call ourselves, but stepping into the leadership and influential roles and stepping up and really fighting for emergency management is huge. And of course, you're a big influential part of emergency management, growing as a profession, but also growing the professional. And having you on today, and then the conversation we were having about emergency managers stepping up is huge. And I want the audience to hear that.
Well, thank you, because I'm very passionate in this space, and I think we're at a critical point in emergency management right now. First of all, the pandemic has been very draining for our community, and we've seen a lot of loss in the practitioner community, and we've also seen a lot of movement from burnout in the positions they're in or the spaces they were in. So that in and of itself is a little bit concerning. What's even more concerning, though, is that we're starting to see kind of some steps back in the extent to which people are recognizing and respecting what emergency management is and listening to us as subject matter experts. That's highly problematic. It's highly problematic for emergency management's professionalization efforts, but it's more problematic for the people we serve. I mean, okay, I'll say it for like the 1,000th time. We protect lives, livelihoods, and quality of life. Huge mission. Huge. Incredibly important mission, right? So in this space, we need folks to understand what we are here to deliver, the value of our knowledge, our expertise, and our education. We need that to be known by our external partners. And we need to be able to say it loud, without reservation. Here's our challenge. I think emergency management folks are, they have a servant heart. So they're all about, yes, I'm here to help, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But they're not boastful. And I'm not saying be boastful. I mean, that is not going to be the message that I'm giving. But what I am saying is you need to be able to say, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is why it's important. And I am the person that needs to make some of these decisions, not you. I have the subject matter expertise in this space. Here's where I work. Here's where you work in this space. Here's where we work together in this space. But we are often found in these structural these confining structural types of situations where, oh, we have this person we report to and that person, and this person doesn't like the other thing, and we're not going to do that. And so we know we should be doing this, but we're going to do the other thing. And no, we have to say no. I'm going to use a great example. I'm so excited about this example. Region 1, IAEM, Region 1, recently wrote a letter to the governor of New Hampshire. I believe it was New Hampshire. And it basically, what they had heard, I hope I'm not giving away any secrets, but what they had heard, and if I am, it's no longer a secret because you will put this out and folks will know, is that there was a push to put into the state director position for the Emergency Management Agency a fire person. And all due respect to fire people. I mean, amazing folks. This is not about a fire person. It's about not recognizing the importance of placing an experienced professional in emergency management in that spot. So what they did under Justin Cates was helping with this with Region 1 is they wrote a letter. I had an opportunity to review it and give them some materials for it, basically saying, look, here's some of our artifacts. Here's who we are. Here's where our identity sits. Here's, where we have built our space out. We are the folks to fill those positions. You have a duty to give the folks in New Hampshire the level of service that is known to be effective. So that is the space where we need to be. We need to increasingly say, no. I'll tell you one more story about Michael Antone, who some people watching this will know Michael Antone. He's now in a new place, but he was in another place. And I won't mention the place, even though everyone who knows him will know. And I'm okay with that. And he said to me, when somebody's going to go do something like an elected official or an appointed person from an elected official, and it's against what his guidance is, he just would tell them, yeah, go ahead. But when the press comes to me afterwards, I'm going to tell them what I told you to do. Right? You can fire me, but I'm not going to cover you. It's going to come back. I think we have to start saying that. I know that's not easy, but he said it and he was effective. Yeah. Yes, it is. We have to start standing up for the things we know that are important for our practice to be at its highest level. So somebody recently said that, I can't remember which state it is, Darnell, maybe it'll come back to me, that they got their program elevated into the governor's office. Yes.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
That's what we need to do. So more of that. But yes, it is. I just had a very long conversation with one of my dear friends, one of the longest, if not the longest serving emergency manager in North Dakota at this point. And we were just talking about how challenging the landscape is in our state right now for emergency managers. The EMPG fund, first of all, I'm going to just throw this out there. And if anybody from FEMA is watching, can you just get on this? Can we let's talk about flow through with EMPG, and let's take some of that power back from the states and make sure the flow through is sufficient to ensure that it gets to the locals. How about that? Let's set some standards like we do in other places and other grant monies and other funding spaces where we say this much must go here, this much must go there, because the flow through is so dramatically different from place to place. Some people have requirements attached to it. I think it's Colorado, I think has some really interesting requirements attached, and it can be region to region, like, oh, you're in this spot. Okay, we'll do this, that, and the other. But it must flow through to the locals because it's widely varied. This is a little thing, right? But this is respect for the value of local programs. You don't have flow through, you don't have respect for the value of a local program. And what do we hear about disasters? Oh, they're local. What does FEMA say? They're local. So you have to, everything has to match up. It can't just be Carol saying, oh no, stand up for yourself. Don't tell them what it's supposed to be like and do it and push it through. It has to be all of us. in a collaborative way, understanding the way some of these little decisions potentially affect the bigger picture of practice and the ways in which we can advance professionalization. But I'll take a breath and let you ask me something else, Dan.
Well, no, I think, that's amazing. I mean, ultimately the information you shared is great, and the examples in general as well. And one of the things that I'm really promoting, and like I'm being very vocal about, is that we as professionals have to step into a more of a marketing role. We have to be emergency management marketers. Like, we have to let people know what it is we do, why we do it, why it's important, how they can get involved, and how it benefits them. Like, we have to become marketers. We have to let people know we're there. And then when they say, oh, he's there, or she's there, why are they there? What can I do to contribute to them being there? And that's one of the biggest things as an individual emergency manager or emergency management professional, is that we have to advocate and educate those that we work with. Like, we have to be advocates for the emergency management profession, and we have to educate them as to why it's important that we're there, what we do, how they can support us. Because there's an issue there we have and this is one that I've been pushing real hard as well, is that most emergency managers are a department of one. And even that being the case, that doesn't mean they are alone in the job.
That's right.
If they are doing the job correctly, which is emergency management is engagement. It's not a reactive profession. It should not be going as be a reactive profession. It needs to be proactive. And we have to be proactive in the way that we apply our specialty. And a lot of that is engaging the community, the organizations, the networks, and grabbing that collaboration so that we are not in it alone. I work in an office where right now, as a practitioner, I am a person of one in that department. I do that, and I manage a lot of other things, but I am not alone in my efforts to bring emergency management to my organization. And that's very important for emergency managers to understand, but it's very important for them to learn how to market themselves. It's not, and I don't even feel like you made the comment of being boastful. I don't feel it's boastful at all. It's in their best interest to know what it is that I do. It's in their best interest to work with me, not against me. As you know, I am there to serve them. It is an industry of service, and that service can be best applied to wherever it is, the jurisdiction, the organization, the government, the business, when they know I'm there, why I'm there, and that they're supporting me in my efforts to serve them. And that's huge in emergency management. And I love the story that they were going to put someone on fire, and I have nothing against fire either, but that is an area that I am strongly an advocate against, is that just because someone has 20 years in law enforcement or fire or military, that doesn't make them qualified to be an emergency manager. Right. And coming from a response background myself, I learned how to be an emergency manager. So I came into the position at the time not knowing anything, and learned to be an emergency manager based on the need that was there, and fell in love with emergency management. But what I find is there are people that fill these roles that don't care anything about emergency management at all. They had 20 years in fire or police, law enforcement or military, and it's impressive on a resume, and they get hired, and then nothing ever really changes in that area. So to have someone say, hey, that's not okay, look at what we do, right? Why it's important that we can serve better by having someone that's trained to do so is huge. And I think that's a role that we as individuals have to take, that are filling those roles. And we are seeing more and more roles at higher levels. We are seeing directors, executive directors, vice presidents of emergency management, continuity. These are positions that we need to be qualified and ready to fill when they come available. And I don't feel we're there. I don't feel there's a lot of people that are qualified to sit there at those positions. And it's ultimately not that they don't maybe not want to, it's that they're not taking the initial effort to make themselves that way. And
let me jump on that, because here's the thing. If you aren't making the case, and it's kind of the sales pitch, right? If you're not kind of making the case for the ways in which emergency management adds value, then no one is going to see your correct placement in an organization. So I like what you're saying about the collaboration. I used to say this all the time. I'm going to use it again here, is that emergency management, we have the puzzle box with the picture. So we know all where all the pieces go. We are about bringing all those pieces together so that with our puzzle box, we could say, we need this, 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 and this, but it's not just us doing it, right? It's we are the conveners of sorts in that space. So I think that is super important, but what we do not do is tell the story of how we add value and how essential. Again, the lives, livelihood and quality of life piece, you have to speak to these things. You have to say, look, here's what happens when I am not able to effectively reach the folks I need to reach in the organization. I'm not in the right place in an organization, or there is no position in an organization or in the government for what I do. Here's what happens, right? We're going to have people who are injured or die. We are going to have businesses that are interrupted, that will close, that will not reopen potentially, and or will suffer such a hit that not only will they close, their people could move away, right? Or we won't have places for our folks to shop or whatever that is. And then quality of life, roads, schools, everything that's involved in our community. Do you understand the impact a disaster can have? And let me just steal from Samantha Montano and so many others who will tell you the conditions for disaster have been created long before the event. And one of the key conditions that are going to have you have a lesser outcome is that you haven't given your due time and attention to emergency management on the front end. You know, when I see a complete debacle in a space, I don't blame the emergency manager. I think to myself, what happened to completely diminish not only that position, but also what happened in the community? There's obviously many connecting things that we know make a difference in outcomes. What happened in those spaces as well? It isn't enough to pick a person and say, it's you, Dan, you are the one at fault. That is so ridiculous if you understand the dynamics of hazards and the ways in which they interact with our environment, all levels of environment. It just shows me that whoever says that has no clear idea. Now, that is not to say that people don't make mistakes, are ineffective sometimes, or make decisions that are not the right decision. It is to say that it is not that simple on the whole. And I think we need to speak to complexity. And again, I think about how much work goes on in the emergency management office. And we just think about relationships. The number of relationships that are managed and matured and cultivated in the emergency management space is daunting. And fascinating to me is that many emergency managers, and this is anecdotal, are introverts.
Yeah.
It's amazing, but this is what's happening. These relationships, why? Because they know what's important and what has to happen to be able to create this framework so that we can be successful in this space. But I agree, this marketing piece, it's huge, us telling the story. I think storytelling, usually where we use our storytelling is in exercises in the emergency management committee, right? So, we'll do a tabletop. We're going to do storytelling and we're going to say, this is happening. So that it brings it to life for folks, right? Or we're going to do a functional or whatever exercise we're doing. And it ends up bringing it to life for our core group. But it needs to be bigger. And FEMA, you know, I'm the last American apparently that watches any commercials, but they have a new commercial. And the new commercial is tying this to risk ownership for individuals and households. And it's talking about how, you plan this party and you plan this event and you did this and all these other things. You put a lot of time and energy into it and look, it went really well. Hey, how about you just start thinking about disasters in the same way? How about you start thinking that that's part of your responsibility in those spaces? we have to do more of that as well. It can't just be, here's who we are, here's what we do. We have to say, here's what we do, here's what you do, here's what we do together. So I call it I can, I will, we will. I can is agency. I can do these things for myself as a citizen. I will means I will do it. I'm going to own the risk. And we will means we understand there's shared risk. And there is. Government is going to come and help with some things, but not everything. And if you think your local government can handle all the things that could possibly go wrong, take a good look at your local government. Most of the time, and this is not to slam local government, this is to say, let's look at, I'll just talk about my area. I'm in West Fargo, but Fargo is nearby. I mean, Fargo has a mayor, and the mayor, I guess, gets some kind of money, but is he a full-time mayor? No, he's a physician. You know, he does other things. And so how much are we putting on that local government? Yes, we have an emergency management team. Yes, we have these other things, but you have to look at ratio in these spaces. And I often tell my students, when we talk about individual and household preparedness and the need to tell folks, you really need to do this, just say, how many people are in our community? Is it 100,000, 200,000? How many people are in your emergency management office? One? How many partners do they have? 20, 25? Okay, do the ratio, do the math on that for yourself. Do you want that to be your whole plan? Is that what you're going to go with? Because the odds aren't good for you then, if that's what you're going to go with, right? So it's not to say that our people are incompetent, it's to say that these are structural impediments, that the expectations that are coming. So we need to be talking about all of these things in the space. That's what makes voters and other people in our community say, you know what? No, we need the emergency management position to be in this space. We need them to be well-funded. We know how important emergency management is to our daily lives, to our well-being, because it really is that important, Dan.
Oh, I 100% agree, and I think that's actually something we can talk about a little bit more detail when it comes to the next segment on leadership, especially because it's a big aspect of not only leadership, but the application of leading through these things and stepping into roles of influence. And that's an area where we can definitely hit on in the leadership discussion, because it's a great point. But one of the areas that the commercials, and we're seeing more and more sort of advertising of these things in FEMA commercials, and PG&E is a local power company that does commercials here. Red Cross is doing more commercials to really try and get the message out there. But as you said, a lot of people don't watch commercials anymore because they don't have to. They're streaming. So, you know, and it's very difficult to get the message to them unless we are actively pushing it to them in ways in which they are engaging. Social media, their personal platforms, whatever it may be, is like, we need to really learn how to apply our message to those platforms to get to the people that we serve and that we want to get our messages to. And it's huge. It's a huge ontaking that we have to really add to our already busy plate, right? So as you mentioned, we as a Department of One doesn't mean they're not competent. It just means that they ultimately have a lot to do all the time, and this leads to burnout. And as we've seen as what COVID brought, is that it worked people so hard that in all industries, not just emergency management, and when we're seeing it, it's called the great resignation is what everybody's calling it, because people are leaving their jobs and their professions because they burned out or they realized, I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's a big aspect of emergency management and driving us forward as a profession and as a professional. Carol, this was amazing conversation, and this everybody who has listened and watched is gonna definitely benefit from it. I want to give you a minute to talk about the bachelor's program at North Dakota State University, plug that and how great it is. And for all those who are listening, this is an amazing program led by amazing professors. I know them, and I endorse this program 100%. And for those who are interested in pursuing their higher education in emergency management, this is where you want to look. So Carol, take a minute, tell us what you're doing with the program, and how people can get a hold of anybody to get some more information.
Okay, well, great. Thanks, Dan. I mean, I really appreciate that endorsement of the program. Here's the bottom line. We're committed to emergency management higher education. We've been in the space for a long time, and we believe our role is to further the practice of emergency management, period, and the discipline. But frankly, the discipline and practice are inextricably linked. So when I say practice, that doesn't mean I don't support the discipline, but really the discipline is here to support, questions that practice has, right? The academic discipline, what kind of research do we need to do to be able to better understand some kind of phenomenon so that we can improve our practice or change our practice or better address some kind of a challenge. But at the end of the day, NDSU's program is focused on ensuring that we are developing the best base for practice. And if you've ever heard me speak before, I don't believe education is the only answer for practice. I do believe students who have graduated, particularly because a lot of times when you are just getting a bachelor's degree, if it's a career first choice, you have no experience in doing anything. You've done an internship, maybe two, something like that, need to be mentored by practitioners. So I am not of the mind, even though this does happen, sometimes it does happen. People go straight from school into a local county position. They're the one person there. I think that's horrifying for them to have to do that, but that's the need in some of the smaller places. So anyway, our program does, because I can go on forever. You give me a minute, I'll take an hour. Our program is really just focused on the contributions in that space. We take this, our role in emergency management professionalization quite seriously. And our team is very devoted. I'm not thinking everybody in the world wants to go to Fargo to get your bachelor's degree or any degree for that matter. And I'm not bagging on Fargo, lovely place when it's not winter, which is only like 7 or 8 months of the year. So, I mean, the rest of it's great. But I will say this about higher education. There are many valuable things to gain in higher education in EM. And if you ever have questions about emergency management in higher education, don't hesitate to reach out to me, because if you go, well, I just not going to come to Fargo and I need to do something, and I get questions all the time about this, I will give you recommendations. Sometimes they'll be as simple as, here's a program in your area that's EM that I know is a nice, strong program that fits the need you're looking for. Sometimes it will be, look at the institution that's closest to you, and I will tell you how to take what's available in that space and craft it into an emergency management lane in a way that's effective for you. But only do that if it's adding value. As Dan and I have talked about this before. I mean, so many people go, well, I have to do a degree for this. And I got this degree, now my master's, now I have to get a doctoral degree. I mean, I guess you just have to keep moving. As someone who did that, no, you don't. What you need to do is say, what do I need to accomplish the things I want to accomplish? And if the doctoral degree is part of that process, great. But if you think it's needed to be able to do effective practice in emergency management to make a difference, you're wrong. Because I know a lot of folks in emergency management, some who came in with a high school diploma and some who have doctoral degrees. And so if the span, let's put it that way, high school diploma to doctoral degrees, the key ingredient is the heart and determination. So you heard it here first, degrees are great and they add value in some places, but heart and determination get you many places. And if you want to learn more about some of these more expansive things, come to NDSU, we'd love to have you. But if you can't come, call me, I'll tell you where to go. And not in a, I'll tell you where to go thing, but I'll help you understand the best pathway for your education. So that was kind of a general education plug and just a little bit for NDSU.
Yeah, awesome. Also, I'll share those links for anybody who's listening. They'll be in the show notes for you to be able to check out the program. Carol's information for being able to reach out to her to ask about the information as well. Carol is amazing to work with, and she truly has a heart for service. And Carol, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today, talk with the listeners. We're going to take a quick break before we transition to our leadership discussion. For all those who are listening and watching, if you found value here, you like what you heard, you've seen, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this with someone else who could benefit. I'm Dan Scott. My goal here is for us to get better, and let's do it together. I will talk to you next time.